There are several reasons why I think the Georgia Bulldogs are going to have an easy time with the Ole Miss Rebels in Athens, Georgia this weekend. But I've got some numbers that lead me to believe that I don't want to say Ole Miss has no shot completely of winning this game, but these numbers are a bad indication for Ole Miss. And basically, they are a really bad third down team. They are a completely different team on the road. I've got some numbers that back all this up. And Jackson Dawg, the Ole Miss quarterback, as well as he's played this year, he's not the same quarterback as he is on the road. Listen, this team's played 3 true road games all season long at Tulane, which doesn't really count because it's at Tulane. Alabama and Tuscaloosa, a game they lost, and a game at Auburn that they kind of had to squeak out. That was a 4-quarter game that they won. Got to give them credit. Tough place to play. But they're not very good on the road. Now they've got to go to Athens to play the best team in the country. Going to be a real tough time. But this is what Jackson Dart specifically has done in these only three road games that he's had all season. Against Tulane, Jackson Dart had 267 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 41 rushing yards, right? Not bad, not bad. That was one of the best games of the season. Against Alabama, Jackson Dart was, threw for 244 yards, 1 touchdown. This is another reason. I talked about third down. They were really bad on third down in this game. 3 of 14 on third down. That's bad. You're not winning games going 3 for 14 on third down, especially on the road. They also had 8 penalties in that game. Not going to happen. That's a tough place to play. Obviously, you're playing Alabama. There's 100,000 people over there in Bryant-Denny Stadium. If you're loud and you can get, them going backwards, talking about the Ole Miss offense, they're going to have a real tough time. And, they couldn't score against Alabama. I think they scored like 28 against Auburn. Probably should have had that score written down in my notes. I don't. But I think they won by 7 points. But against Alabama, they couldn't move the ball. They couldn't put points up on the board. And a big reason was because the environment, right? Could be very similar to the game against Georgia. They are 97th in the country, 36% on third down offense. 41 of 113. They're a bad team on third down offensively. And in this type of environment, which should be wild, should be crazy, should be an elite atmosphere in Athens, if the crowd's going nuts, this team on the road cannot convert third downs. And it's going to be even tougher against a really good defense in that crowd environment. We've talked about the crowd all week because it does matter. Ole Miss is a bad third down team. They're 97th in the country on converting third downs offensively. That's not going to get the job done in Athens. It's just not. If that trend continues, then listen, we know they are right now. We're 9 games in the season. Feel like we know what Georgia is. Feel like we know what Ole Miss is. So this is not something that they're going to fix overnight. It's been a problem all season long. And I think it continues in Athens, Georgia. They're also 113th in the country in most penalties. They've had 66 penalties so far this season. I think that's like 8 a game, 7 or 8 a game, something like that. That's bad. You're not winning on the road against an elite team, arguably the best team in the country, committing penalties and not converting on third down. It's just not going to happen. Against Alabama, Dart with 244, 1 touchdown, 3 for 14 on third down offensively, and 8 penalties. Against Auburn, Jackson Dart was 10 of 16, 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 44 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns. Kid can move a little bit. He's got a little bit of a wiggle, but he's not Robbie Ashford fast. He's not, I don't think he's Spencer Rattler type of fast. I wouldn't call Spencer Rattler fast, but I'd call him mobile and halfway elusive. And I don't think he's as good as runner as Brady Cook is that Georgia just saw at Missouri, who escaped, for some yards. He ran the ball a little bit here and there, but Jackson Dart's not beating Georgia with his legs. He's just not outrunning those 2 crazy fast linebackers they have, in addition to Small Money and Zaven Sorey and Jalen Walker. It's not happening. So whatever he does with with his legs, it's not going to be enough to beat him. But, they were 2 for 11 on third down at Auburn. 2 for 11. 11 penalties. They still won that game too, which is crazy. You look at those numbers, you go 2 for 11 on the road in the SEC and find a way to win the game with 11 penalties. That's crazy, but it's not going to happen in Athens. They're going to have to play their A game, and he's got weapons, right? He's got talent. Trey Harris, I believe, the wide receiver that just went off against Texas A&M. I may have just butchered that on accident. Quinshawn Judkins, the running back. They've got some weapons. Now, the right tackle, I think, might be out for the game. That is problematic, to say the least. Georgia's going to be coming after him, especially in the fourth quarter. And again, if they get down and Ole Miss has to, start going for fourth downs a little earlier than they want to, and they start having to throw the ball consistently down after down to get back in the game, this one could have a domino effect and really get away from them. So I think there is the potential for Georgia to really win this game handedly, and then at the end of the game, we could be talking about them clearly being the best team in the country, depending on what Michigan does. And I guess you still have to talk about Ohio State being number one, but Georgia could make a statement in this game, and the Sanford Stadium crowd could help them make that statement. And this is probably the perfect game for Georgia fans to come out and bring their A game at night. It could be raining, and if it does, that's going to make things even tougher for Ole Miss and that offense. As far as moving the football, we remember what happened to Tennessee last year. It started raining. That ball got wet. Turnovers, sacks, receivers start slipping on their routes. Quarterbacks slipping, try to get away from these defenders. Whoever is winning when the rain starts, I think, could have a significant chance to win this game. And again, I think it's Georgia. The more I dig into the numbers about how bad Ole Miss is on third down, especially on offense, in this environment, it's hard for me to imagine them playing their best game and coming out with a win. But they've got to play better on the road, and it's too far into the season for them to turn around and be a good road team, right? They are a top 10 team. They've got talent. They've won big games, but a lot of those big games were at home. And of course, it's easy to play at home, but are they good enough to go into a big-time environment, big-time atmosphere, and come out with a win? They did it at Auburn. It was an ugly win, but it was a win, and they still played poorly. Jackson Dart had a real tough time throwing the ball. He did have the interception, and again, was crafty with his legs. Rushed for 2 touchdowns. That was combined half of their points. But if Georgia's secondary can step up and play as well as they did last week, I think Georgia should be fine. The pass rush is, getting there more and more. And again, when you get down to a Kirby Smart coached Georgia team, it's really tough to come from behind unless you have a future NFL starting quarterback like Jalen Hurts, who did it in 2018 in the SEC championship game. A guy who went on to have a great Super Bowl game, even in that loss last year. Anyway, it takes an elite quarterback. Jackson Dart is good. He's good. I'm not saying there's 0% chance Ole Miss wins this game. There's more of a 0% chance they win the game. I'd probably put it at 90%, 10%. I would be very surprised if this Ole Miss team that is this bad on third down and commits this many penalties comes into Athens against a team that hasn't lost at home in 5 years and pulls off the upset. They could keep it close and they could cover, and that would be a respectable win. If you're an Ole Miss fan and they cover this game, they don't get blown out, you've got to be feeling pretty happy, right? This, again, a lot of people said this is their Super Bowl. This is the biggest game in Ole Miss program history, maybe, or at least last 20 years, last 10 years, last 50 years. I don't know. I'm not an Ole Miss guy, but this has to be up there. And if Lane Kiffin wins this game, this is the biggest win of his career, right? Because it's against the Georgia Bulldogs, who are number one, back-to-back champions. So I don't care what he did at Tennessee, USC, FAU, Oakland, right? If he beats Georgia, that's his biggest win of his career. This is not just some random team that they came in and beat. They beat the Dogs. This would be one of the biggest wins in Ole Miss program history, maybe number one, biggest win for Lane Kiffin. There's a lot on the table for them. He can say all he wants about how our backs are against the wall, this and that. Yeah, because they kind of are, and he's right about that. He says they have nothing to lose, so they're going to throw the kitchen sink out there. This would be a massive, massive win for the program. They're going to give it everything they have. At the end of the day, they're going to have to convert on third down, and they're going to have to play disciplined football, and it's so tough to do that in Athens at night with a crowd that should be elite. We'll see if they are. But, maybe Stetson Bennett makes an appearance. Maybe Brock Bowers plays in the game. There's a lot that we could see on Saturday night in Athens. Should be a beautiful game to watch. The weather might not be beautiful, which, again, I think would be an advantage to Georgia if we did see some rain in the forecast. But 97th in the country on third down percentage. 113th in the country in penalties. 3 for 4, or 3 for 14, excuse me, on third down against Alabama, 2 for 11 on third down against Auburn. I don't see it getting a whole lot better than that. Real tough challenge for the Rebels. Yeah, real tough challenge. Thanks for watching this video. Sign up to our free newsletter. That link is down below. We've written about all this and more over on Dawg Post, so make sure you check that out. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.